Hey guys, tonight we slip quietly into the straw-slatted world of feudal Japan, specifically to the night before a battle. You are a samurai, not the movie kind with endless swagger and wind-blown cloaks, but the real kind, one with a sore back, calloused feet, and just enough rice in your belly to avoid passing out. You're preparing to sleep, or at least, to try. Because tomorrow? Yeah, you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're in the mood, comment below with where you're listening from and what time it is over there. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your legs ache from the day's drills, and your wrists still hum with the vibration of your katana slicing through practice posts. The sun dips below the pine-covered ridge, turning the dirt path outside your dojo to shadows and silver. You close the heavy sliding door with a wooden clunk and press your palms together for a moment, just inside the threshold. It's not about worship. It's about rhythm. It's about respect for the space, for your blade, for the fact that you're still breathing. Your fellow samurai are winding down, too. You hear the thud of practice swords being hung on the racks, the dry rasp of armor being peeled off like an onion of discipline. No one talks loudly. That would be gauche. You're warriors, not frat boys. You move with slow purpose. Always slow. Always purpose. The dojo is dim but familiar. You can almost walk it with your eyes closed. Not that you do. There's always that one ankle-height step that's out to ruin you. Before you even think about lying down, you must tend to your blade. That's not optional. You sit on the floor, legs folded beneath you, and unsheathe the katana across your lap. The blade is as much a part of your identity as your name, maybe more so. Names can be lost. This edge, though, is immortal. You begin the cleaning ritual. Rice paper, a little choji oil, clove-scented, comforting in its own sharp way, and the rhythmic slide of cloth on steel. It's hypnotic. Your breathing slows with each pass. Some say the act of cleaning a blade is better than meditation. Others say those people need better hobbies. Historians still argue whether samurai truly cleaned their weapons every night or if that's a modern romanticism, but in this version of your world, you do. Every night, without fail. Once your katana gleams with the smug gleam of a weapon that knows it'll see action soon, you bow to it and place it reverently beside your mat. It's not quite bedtime yet, but you're getting there. You move toward the far corner where your futon waits, rolled like a promise. On the way, you pass the scroll alcove. It's meant to inspire quiet reflection. Today's scroll shows a brush-painted crane standing on one leg in the rain. You're not sure if it's meant to say grace under pressure or you'll be standing alone tomorrow, but either way, it's very poetic. You finally lower yourself onto the mat. The straw beneath is firm, but not cruel. The air smells like pine, old sweat, and sandalwood from a stick someone lit earlier. The sounds outside are distant now. A water bucket creaks. A frog tests the acoustics of a nearby pond. Somewhere, someone sneezes and earns a grumbled shh. You close your eyes. Not to sleep yet. Just to soften the focus. To let your thoughts settle like silt in a still pond. You think of home, briefly. A cherry tree in bloom. Your mother's laugh. The way she used to scold you for tracking mud into the house with your waraji sandals. It's easy to romanticize it now, in the dark, with death sitting politely just outside the door. Tomorrow, everything becomes louder, brighter, more final. But tonight? Tonight is for soft things, for breath, for preparation. Someone farts gently across the room. You open one eye. The offender does not apologize. You roll onto your side and trace the grain of the wooden floor with your eyes until it all blurs into one sleepy smear of brown and gold. The room is cooling quickly. Your blanket, a single layer of woven cotton, doesn't do much, but it's enough to remind your body that it's time to slow down. A novice warrior nearby is muttering prayers. You can't catch the words, but you recognize the rhythm. It's a lullaby made of hope and fear. You let the sound wash over you, not minding the intrusion. It's honest. And tonight, honesty is the only kind of luxury any of you can afford. You tuck your hands under your head, knees curled slightly. A fighting stance, even in sleep. Some things are muscle memory by now. Above you, the wooden beams cradle shadows, like nesting birds. You imagine them watching over you, flitting silently from thought to thought. You wonder if you'll dream. You hope it's of something boring, like chopping wood, or watching paint dry on a ceremonial banner. That would be nice. The straw mat beneath you is not particularly soft. It crinkles faintly as you shift, each movement a careful negotiation with the rigid bamboo slats underneath. It smells faintly of earth and time, like something that remembers every shoulder that's ever pressed against it. You exhale slowly, as you've been taught, nose, then mouth. Your breath stirs a strand of hair across your cheek. You don't brush it away. Let it tickle. Let your body know. No threat here, not tonight. You curl tighter into your blanket, which barely covers your knees unless you choose to sacrifice the tops of your shoulders. It's a familiar compromise, one that reminds you you're still alive, still weighing tiny choices with your body, even if fate is beyond your control. You shift again. The mat obliges with a whispery crunch. It's not a bed, not in the luxurious Western sense. No feathers, no four-posts, no drapes, just a firm, portable rectangle of woven practicality. But it has one enormous advantage: humility. You don't sleep in this bed to be pampered. You sleep here because sleep is fuel, and tomorrow's duel doesn't care about your lumbar support. Outside the dojo, a cicada starts up with that high-pitched summer drone. You try to time your breath to it, sinking your chest with its mechanical whir. The insect is relentless, like a monk chanting in Morse code. You could almost respect it. Almost. Your fingers rest lightly against your belly, just above the obi sash you've loosened for the night. Beneath your robe, your skin is sticky from the day's sweat. You don't wash before bed. Water is rationed, and besides, a samurai doesn't need to be pristine. He needs to be ready. Ready doesn't require clean hair. A deep sigh comes from the mat beside you. You know who it is without turning. Tanaka. His snores arrive with theatrical flair about 10 minutes into every night. You've gotten used to it, like waves. Big, ugly, nasal waves. You wonder briefly if your enemies will be just as predictable. Now your back is starting to itch. That one patch, just below the left shoulder blade. Impossible to reach unless you do that twisty double elbow maneuver that makes you look like you're trying to fight your own ghost. You attempt it anyway. Crack. Your spine pops in a way that's probably not ideal, but there's relief. There's something about this moment, lying flat on your mat, half alert, half dreaming, that sharpens your awareness. You hear every creak in the beams above, every shift of cloth against cloth. Samurai are trained to sleep lightly. Some even sleep with their eyes half open, although that sounds less like strategy and more like insomnia, cosplaying as discipline. Historian once speculated that these floor-sleeping habits made samurai unusually good at waking and fighting within seconds. Others argue it's nonsense. No one fights well barefoot, half asleep, and tangled in linen. The truth, as always, probably lies somewhere between the poetry and the practicality. Your hands move slowly now, finding their nightly ritual without conscious thought. You massage the tendons in your wrists. They're sore from hours of kata practice. Each twist and flick echoes into the muscle memory that will decide tomorrow's fate. Then you trace the calluses along your palm with your thumb, a silent tally of every hilt you've ever gripped. From somewhere in the dark, there's the faint clink of metal. Not threatening, just someone repositioning their daisho, perhaps, tucking their katana closer in case of a midnight alarm. It's comforting in a way, like hearing your neighbor lock their door after you've locked yours. A shared understanding, we are not safe, but we are prepared. You breathe again, this time deeper. The scent of the mat rises, grassy, earthy, oddly nostalgic. For what? You're not sure. Childhood, training days, simpler mornings with only bruises to worry about. Your foot twitches, a leftover reflex from sparring. It jerks like it wants to kick something, then settles. You whisper to it, "Not tonight." It listens. All around you, other bodies rustle and shift. It's a sea of disciplined discomfort. No one complains. Complaining is for the untrained or the rich, neither of which you are. Even when someone's elbow bumps your blanket in their sleep, you just exhale. No war worth fighting was ever won on a memory foam mattress. You're finally starting to drift, not into full sleep yet, but into that calm, liminal place where thoughts lose their edges, where your name stops sounding like yours, and your sword feels as far away as the stars. And then you feel it, a bead of sweat running from your temple to your ear, cold as a monk's whisper. You ignore it. That's the samurai way, mostly. The tea is warm in your hands, even if you don't remember the exact moment it was handed to you. One of the juniors must have brought it around, silently, respectfully, like a shadow bearing caffeine. You lift the ceramic cup slowly, letting the steam curl into your face, humid and grassy. It smells faintly like spring morning clippings and old book pages. This is no powdered instant leaf dust. This is matcha, real matcha, whisked into velvet by the practiced hand of someone who probably also knows 5 ways to disarm a man with a rice spoon. You sip. Bitter, then sweet, then bitter again. The taste wakes up a part of you that isn't entirely ready for bed, but that's the point. This tea is not for energy. It's for grounding, for ritual. You are not just drinking tea. You are participating in a centuries-old practice that balances the nerves before battle, or at least distracts them long enough for your stomach to settle. Tea ceremonies the night before a fight aren't standard. Some commanders encourage them, believing in the clarity they bring. Others ban them, fearing distraction. Historians still argue whether these rituals were common on campaign or mostly a luxury for peacetime dojos. But here now, in this flickering half-light where the moon peeks through slatted wood, tea is served. And it matters. The boy who served you, maybe 15, kneels beside you, eyes on the floor. His hands tremble only slightly as he bows. You bow back, fractionally. He has done his part. You've done yours. There is harmony. The room hums with the soft scrape of cups and bowls. You're not alone. 20 other warriors share this space with you. Some sip slowly, with the reverence of monks. Others drink faster, with eyes narrowed and distant. Each one processes fear differently. You glance across the room at Okabe, who stares into his tea like it might reveal tomorrow's odds. He always did treat tea like a fortune teller. He once claimed to have seen a crane in the foam, and promptly injured his foot 2 days later while chasing a thief. You were never sure if that was the tea's fault, or just Okabe being Okabe. You swirl your own cup gently, watching the surface settle. You think of the fields beyond the camp where fireflies dance like tiny spirits. You imagine one of them slipping into your tea unnoticed, infusing it with a dream, a silly thought, but not unwelcome. As the room settles into a rhythm, the senior sensei begins to speak. His voice is gravel wrapped in silk. You don't look up. That would be impolite, but you listen. He speaks of clarity, of precision, of surrendering to the moment without hesitation or distraction. Drink this tea, he says, as if it is the last thing that can nourish your spirit. It is not morbid. It is instruction. The way a gardener speaks to soil, you sip again, slower. Around you, the warmth builds. The room, small and simple, starts to feel like a cocoon, a quiet womb where death waits outside the walls, pacing, politely checking its watch. For now, you are safe, not immune, not invincible, but safe. A few warriors begin to stretch, not the aggressive stretches of pre-battle warm-up, but the long, groaning, yoga-adjacent kind meant to release the last of the day's tension. You join them. Your joints complain, but your muscles whisper gratitude. The tea begins to work. Not like medicine, more like memory. You feel calmer now, not because you've forgotten tomorrow, but because you've accepted it. There's a difference. As you place the empty cup back on the tray, you trace your finger along its rim once, twice. The clay is warm, still holding the heat of its contents. You wonder how many hands shaped this cup, how many lips it has touched, how many warriors it has steadied. Your belly is warm now, not full, never full, but warm. You lie back down. The straw mat creaks. You swear its size. In your mouth, a faint bitterness lingers, like a promise, like a sword, sheathed but not forgotten. You're not sleepy yet, but your mind is finally quiet. And in the world of samurai, that's close enough to a miracle. The air has changed, subtly but distinctly. You smell it before you fully notice, the woody richness of sandalwood twining through the room like smoke that remembers a story. Someone has lit incense, not extravagantly. Just one stick, probably, from a lacquered box tucked in a corner, saved for evenings like this. The scent rises and loops in lazy spirals, tickling the underside of your nose and tugging your senses toward a softer focus. It's not just about the smell. It's about the memory it carries. Sandalwood is a scent your body knows better than your mind does. You've smelled it in temples, on festival days, at funerals, and every now and then on the wrist of someone who left before dawn. It's a scent of ceremony, serious, sleepy, and sacred. You breathe deeper, letting it settle into your lungs, into your ribs. A warm cloud that seems to unfurl just beneath your skin. It mixes with the fading aftertaste of tea in your mouth. Earthy, unearthy. You let the flavors blur. The scent works its way into your blanket, into your hair, even into the linen band wrapped loosely around your middle. You're becoming part of the room, like a piece of paper absorbing ink. It's funny. Incense was once rare, imported, expensive, reserved for monks and nobility. But by the time you were born, even lower-ranking samurai had access to it. Not because they needed to smell nice, but because scent became part of discipline. Smell this? Relax. Focus. Remember who you are. There's a saying, ko o kiku, which means to listen to incense. Not smell it, listen. As if the curling smoke carries whispers, instructions, regrets, warnings. Tonight, it whispers that tomorrow might not arrive, but it does so gently. Around the room, others have begun to relax further. The tea is finished, the stretching done. The rustling has slowed. Mats creak less. Even Tanaka's snoring has taken on a softer, more rhythmic quality. Like a polite hog dreaming of rice balls. You shift again, this time with less urgency. The scent makes the mat feel softer, makes your own skin feel more forgiving. Maybe it's trickery, maybe it's alchemy. Historians still debate whether incense had any real psychological effect on samurai, or if it was just an aromatic placebo. But you know better. Your breath has slowed. Your pulse, too. In the corner, an elder is fidgeting with a small wooden box, his own incense stash. You've seen him do this before. He opens the box, breathes in, closes it. He never lights it, just inhales the memory. You wonder what memories sandalwood holds for him. Maybe a teacher who once scolded him for slouching. Maybe a lover with a sandalwood comb in her hair. Maybe it reminds him of the time he didn't die. You close your eyes and imagine the smoke curling over your body. Not fire, not danger. Just smoke, warm and slow and curling like a cat around your neck. You exhale. The image holds. For a moment, your body forgets the itch, the ache, the pre-battle dread. Your fingers uncurl. You're still alert, of course. That never quite goes away. A samurai never sleeps so deeply that he couldn't rise with a sword in hand and a plan in mind. But tonight, the incense helps you inch closer to that edge of sleep, that soft border where thoughts blur and even fear falls silent. Your dreams, when they begin, are hazy. Abstract. You see a field of tall grass, a sword, standing upright in the earth like a grave marker, a cup of tea that never cools, a crane that lands on your shoulder but weighs nothing. You do not question these things. Dreams are not interrogations. They are release. The incense is still burning. You can smell it with every breath. You can feel it calming the parts of you that were clenched for hours, jaw, shoulders, heart. You let your body become smoke, if only for a little while. Your armor lies beside you, a quiet presence in the dark, not piled, not thrown, but laid out piece by piece in careful sequence, as if it too has earned its rest. You turn your head slightly and let your eyes adjust. There it is, the breastplate, gently curved like the rib cage of some mechanical animal. The sword, those ornate shoulder guards, stacked like sleeping beetles. The kabuto helmet, upside down and yawning like a steel bowl. Even the mempo faceplate rests nearby, expressionless and a little smug. You don't touch it. Not yet. Armor needs to sleep too. There's something oddly intimate about seeing your gear like this, disassembled and almost shy. In the daylight, it's a source of pride, a gleaming second skin. But now it's just cloth and metal, held together by loops and knots, and the memory of violence. It smells like lacquer, sweat, and old effort. That scent never quite fades. You've oiled the cords, tightened the knots, patched the underlayers. It's yours, and tomorrow it will wear you as much as you wear it. Historians sometimes debate whether samurai truly treated their armor with reverence or simply saw it as a tool. Some diaries from the Sengoku period speak of warriors naming their breastplates. Others suggest armor was just another object to be replaced. The truth, like most things in history, likely depended on whether the armor had ever saved your life. Yours has. Once, during an ambush by the river, when an arrow found your chest and stopped just short of anything fatal. You don't remember. The pain, just the sound, the hard thunk of metal meeting wood. Like someone knocking on a door you decided not to answer. You reach out now and brush your fingers against the edge of the hay date, the thigh guards. The silk cords fray a little at the corners. The fabric still carries mud from last month's March. It doesn't matter. You're not trying to impress anyone. Each piece of armor has its own personality. The coat arm guards are stubborn. The sun-eat shin plates never sit quite right, unless you curse under your breath while tying them. The helmet? Heavy, reliable, dramatic. Like an old uncle who insists on giving you life advice and then falls asleep mid-sentence. Tonight, though, they all sleep quietly. You don't polish them. That would be tempting fate. You've done the minimum. Checked the ties, flexed the joints, whispered a half-sarcastic prayer that nothing falls off mid-fight. That's enough. A few mats down, you hear someone murmur to their armor, voice soft and private. Not superstition exactly, more like acknowledgement. Like leaving water for the house spirits. You smile faintly. Your armor has stories. The notch on the shoulder plate? From a spar with your old rival? He claimed it was accidental. You still doubt him. The faded silk underpadding? A gift from someone who never asked you to write. A parting gift wrapped in utility. You close your eyes again, picturing yourself putting it on tomorrow, layer by layer. The way the weight shifts, your posture, the sound it makes, a symphony of clinks and soft grunts. No part of it is comfortable, but every part of it is necessary, and yet, not now. Now it rests. Now it's just a presence at your side. Familiar. Like a friend sleeping beside you. Neither of you speaking, because everything that needed to be said was said on the training ground and will be said again in the way you move together on the battlefield. You roll to your other side, turning away from it gently. You trust it, to be there in the morning. And in the silence that follows, you almost hear it breathing too. You whisper into the dark, not loud, not even enough for Tanaka and his snoring 2 mats over to hear. Just a thread of sound, barely parting your lips. A prayer, though you wouldn't call it that aloud. It's not to a specific god, not even necessarily to the kami of the place. It's to your ancestors. And if you're being honest, it's also a little bit to yourself. The words are old, inherited. You're not sure when you learned them. Somewhere between holding a bakken for the first time and realizing that you would die a warrior, whether you liked it or not. Watch over me, keep my blade steady, guide my feet through the fog. Oh, breath. Remind me who I am when the arrows fly. Another breath. Let me not be foolish, nor cowardly, but precise. The rhythm of these whispers has always helped you sleep. Not because you believe the dead will literally show up tomorrow, morning and block incoming spear thrusts, but because remembering them, their names, their battles, their quiet triumphs, makes you feel less alone. You picture your grandfather, who supposedly stared down a charging horse and lived. Your great aunt, who ran a forge by herself until she was 60 and never married because men interrupt the work. You picture the ones whose names were never written down, the ones lost in floods, in childbirth, in duels that were never spoken of again. They are not ghosts, they are company, and you hope, no, you assume they're listening, because if they're not, then who is? The shadows along the ceiling ripple slightly with the flicker of a distant torch. You could imagine them as faces, if you stared long enough. One has your father's brow, another, the crooked jaw of the mentor who once told you to eat more. Eel and think less about metaphysics. Historians often speculate how central ancestor worship was to the everyday samurai. Was it spiritual, or simply cultural? Did warriors believe they were watched, or just like pretending they were? You smile to yourself. A silly question. It's not about belief. It's about rhythm, habit, repetition that anchors the mind. Your mouth moves again, but this time, it's not a prayer. It's a poem, one your mother used to hum while sharpening kitchen knives. Stone to steel and hand to eye, the rain falls straight, the sparrows fly. Who sees the blade? Who sees the breath? Only the one who walks with death. It sounds darker now than it did when you were 6. Then again, you didn't know much about walking with death back then. You thought it meant crossing a muddy field with a grumpy ox. You let the poem drift away. The air is cooler now. You pull your blanket higher, tucking it beneath your chin. The warmth of the tea is fading, but the incense still lingers, softer now, as if it too is lying down. You wonder what it would be like to see your ancestors tomorrow. If the world beyond is real, if the veil between life and whatever comes next is thin enough to peek through, you imagine meeting your grandfather again. Would he laugh at your stance, offer corrections? Would he be proud? Or would he just nod as if to say, "Took you long enough"? You whisper again, just one word, help. It's not dramatic, not desperate, just tired. And in that moment you feel it, not a voice, not even a breeze, just the absence of fear, the sudden small quiet where panic used to sit. You nestle into it. Let your body go limp. Your limbs feel a little heavier now, in the good way. Tomorrow will arrive with steel and shouts and uncertainty. But tonight? Tonight, you have company in the dark, even if only in memory. You sit up briefly, cross-legged on your mat, as the moonlight slices across the floor in perfect angles. In your lap, a brush, a scrap of rice paper, and ink thick enough to cling to your fingers even when you barely dip them. Tonight, you write. Your j'essaie, your death poem. Not because you're sure you'll die, that would be dramatic, but because it's tradition. And if you've learned anything, it's that tradition has teeth. Sometimes it bites. Sometimes it's the only thing holding your ribs together. You hold the brush like a sword, which is not entirely wrong. There's a whole philosophy about brushstroke and blade technique being twin arts, but tonight you're more concerned with not smudging the paper. The ink smells faintly metallic. You swirl the tip of the brush and begin. There are rules to this, or there were rules once. 5 syllables, then 7, then 5 again. Like a verbal footstep through a garden of thoughts you'll never walk again. But you've seen senior warriors abandon the structure entirely in favor of a single, odd line. One of them wrote, "Too many eggplants. I leave now." He was strange, but he did die well. You breathe, then write, "Steel at sunrise waits. The sparrow uninvited lands, where blood once slept." You stare at it. Is it good? Doesn't matter. It's yours. You blow on the ink gently. The breeze from your lips stirs a curl in your hair and the edge of the paper. The ink dries fast. There's something final about that. It doesn't scream. It settles, like snowfall. You place the poem beside your mat. Folded once, no need for drama. Someone will find it, or they won't. Either way, it's not for them. It's for you. A quiet punctuation at the end of a long, nervous paragraph. Historians love to debate how widespread the practice of death poems really was. Were they written by every samurai, or just the literate elite? Did most warriors even have time for verse the night before battle? The records are scattered, biased, romanticized. But one thing they agree on, when a poem was found, it was treated with reverence. You hope yours gets that courtesy. From somewhere outside the dojo, a wind chime rings. Soft, clear, accidental. The wind carries a chill with it, brushing across your bare forearms as you slide back under the blanket. Your fingers are still ink-stained. You sniff them. They smell like iron. Tomorrow you'll grip your sword with these same fingers. But tonight, they've held something gentler. The idea of death put into words. That's no small thing. You feel different now. Not braver exactly, but more real. Like the fear has passed through a filter. Like you're part of something older than blood and armor. Something softer. You lie down again, spine slowly unspooling into the mat. The poem is folded by your side, under your pillow, like a note to a future that may never read it. The room is still. Even Tanaka's snoring seems more contemplative now. You imagine a world where you survive tomorrow, where you look back on this night and think, I was very serious about that poem. You smile. Then again, if you don't survive, at least your syllables are in order. The camp hushes, slowly, not all at once, like a tide retreating. At first, there are still the familiar sounds, armor being adjusted one last time, a soft cough from someone who drank their tea too quickly, the creak of wood under shifting weight. But then gradually the dojo settles into a kind of shared silence, not imposed, not fearful, just understood. Sleep is approaching, not full sleep, but its quieter cousin, readiness to drift. The oil lamps along the walls have been dimmed, not extinguished, too risky in a time like this, but turned low enough to let the shadows stretch comfortably across the room. The floor glows like old parchment, and then you hear it. The first true snore. Not Tanaka, surprisingly. Someone else. A baritone rumble from the far corner. A gentle rolling growl that seems to signal to the rest of the room, it's okay. You can sleep now. I've gone first. Others follow. A symphony of snores, rustles, sighs, and the occasional muted foot shuffle. All the noises of people trying very hard not to make noise. There's an etiquette to sleeping in shared space. You learn quickly which movements are too loud, how to shift your blanket without sounding like you're wrestling a fox, how to clear your throat silently. You're good at this now. The dojo smells faintly of men, mats, metal, and smoke. It's not unpleasant. It's lived in. A kind of olfactory reassurance. You're not alone. The walls are thin. Through them, you hear the rustle of tents beyond, the occasional clink of armor as someone outside walks their rounds. The sound is rhythmic, familiar. 1, 2, 1, 2. A guard. Good. Let them stay awake so you don't have to. Historians have long wondered how samurai camps managed sleep before battle. Did they sleep at all? Or was it more like napping, intermittent, shallow, always alert? Some scrolls suggest that certain camps employed rotating sleep schedules, while others relied entirely on trust. Trust that the man beside you wasn't going to lose his mind and start shouting about ghosts at 3 a.m. Always a gamble. You breathe through your nose, out through your mouth, quiet, steady. The blanket over you is just heavy enough to remind your skin where it ends. That's helpful. In times of fear, the body can feel uncontained, like your thoughts might float out of your fingertips and into the rafters. But tonight, the weight of the blanket says, no, stay here. You're still you, all of you. You shift your legs. The mat underneath gives slightly. It remembers your shape. Above you, in the beams of the ceiling, tiny insects cling in clusters. You imagine them asleep, if insects sleep. Maybe they just sit very still and dream of fruit. Your own dreams have not yet begun, but your thoughts are starting to soften, edges blurring, logic loosening, a creak nearby. Not alarming, just someone shifting, pulling their sword a little closer, maybe. You do the same, fingers brushing the hilt of your katana. Cool, smooth, grounding. You don't plan to use it tonight, but knowing it's there helps. Just beyond the wall, someone sneezes. There's a pause. Then a quiet voice mutters, "Bless you." Everyone laughs. Barely. Softly. It lasts about 4 seconds. Then the silence reclaims the space, as if embarrassed it ever left. You smile into your pillow. You can feel sleep now, not descending like a blanket, but seeping in like mist. Under a door, your heart is steady, your limbs are still, your mind quiet. For once. Sleep in a samurai encampment is not something you fall into, it's something you negotiate. There is no such thing as a full night's rest here. What you get instead is a loose arrangement with the night, like two old friends agreeing to ignore each other for a few hours. You lie down, promise not to think too hard about dying, and the night, in turn, promises to not throw any sudden attacks at you. Probably. But as with all fragile agreements, the silence breaks first. You hear it coming. The soft thump of sandaled, feet on packed dirt, the slight rattle of armor shifting, the intermittent creak of a wooden spear being adjusted in a tired grip. The night watch. Crunch, crunch, pause, crunch. The sound grows clearer, not loud but utterly undeniable, like a sneeze, held in for too long. You keep your eyes closed, but your ears stretch, straining through the walls of the dojo to track the path of the sentry as he passes by the sleeping quarters. His lantern casts a brief glow through the rice paper windows, golden, hazy, like moonlight wearing a veil. The silhouette flickers, a wide-brimmed jingasa hat squared shoulders, the suggestion of a blade glinting with firefly reflections. You open one eye. Just a sliver. Old habit. Training. Muscle memory. You never really sleep here. Not like a child sleeps, boneless and full of trust. No, samurai sleep like cats. Half-conscious, ears twitching, one hand always vaguely near something sharp. The guard walks on. His lantern bobs, and the sound of his steps fades into the rhythm of the night. The whisper of grass, the buzz of insects, the distant hoot of an owl that clearly disapproves of this whole military business. You close your eye again. Try to sink. Back in. But your body, once interrupted, is no longer so cooperative. Your thoughts, uninvited, begin their march. Did I tighten the knot on my left cote? What if the cord slips in the first clash tomorrow? What if I trip stepping out of the dojo? What if my sandals betray me in front of everyone? Did I sharpen my blade too much? Is there such a thing as too sharp? Should I have written a second death poem? One as backup in case the first is underwhelming? You roll onto your side. The mat creaks. Someone across the room sighs audibly, and you realize with some pride that your personal insomnia is now a communal event. Tanaka grumbles in his sleep. It sounds like he's muttering about dumplings. There's a soft click from outside. Another footstep. Another round begins. You peek again, this time more lazily. A different guard. This one shorter. Probably one of the junior retainers, new enough to still take the watch seriously, but tired enough to forget that the metal rings on his belt make noise every time he takes a step. He paces the perimeter like a fisherman walks the edge of a dock, slowly, but with the vague sense something might jump out at any moment. Your body remains still, but your mind is restless. The near sleep state is the worst. It makes time elastic. Minutes stretch into hours, and then snap back suddenly. You blink, and it's still the same night, still the same moon overhead, still the same ache in your right shoulder blade that no amount of stretching has ever solved. You attempt breathing exercises. Inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 7. Exhale for 8. You try to picture calming things. Ripples on a koi pond, the slow unfurling of cherry blossoms. The entirely fictional concept of winning tomorrow's duel in a single graceful movement without sweating. It's no use. You can hear your pulse now ticking in your ears. And then, rustle. A sound. Different. You're upright before you realize it. Not standing, not dramatic, just propped up on one elbow, blanket pooled around your waist like a dropped curtain. The sound came from the bushes just outside the window. A soft but deliberate brush of something against leaves, not the wind, not the usual midnight raccoon. You hear someone shift beside you. Okabe, perhaps. You exchange glances in the dark. Neither of you speaks, just a subtle tilt of the chin. Did you hear that too? Another sound, closer this time. Then silence. You wait. Muscles coiled but calm. This is the kind of stillness that training drills into your bones. From the direction of the gate, a voice, low, gruff, tired. Just a deer, the watchman mutters to himself. Probably. You lie back down slowly. The mat sighs beneath you. The dojo, sensing the crisis has passed, settles into its previous rhythm. A few warriors who'd been poised half awake like you exhale together. Someone whispers, "Dear, better be unarmed." A ripple of quiet laughter. Even Tanaka snorts in his sleep, as if laughing on instinct. You smile faintly, stare up at the ceiling. The beams above you have watched over generations. They've absorbed countless hours of restless, warrior sleep, of whispered gossip, of nervous pre-battle fidgeting. You like to imagine they remember everything, that they're wiser than all of you. As the camp grows still again, you tuck your blanket tighter. You've lost count of the time, but eventually your thoughts begin to blur again. The edge of awareness softens. The guards continue their rounds, their footsteps fading in and out like waves against the shore, and you, reluctantly, cautiously, let yourself drift back into the shallows of rest, just for a while. You're not sure when it starts, exactly, but at some point in the blurry folds of not quite sleep, you begin to notice it. The sound of the crickets. At first, it's just background, something your ears catalog and dismiss, like the distant crackle of a campfire or the occasional midnight cough from a neighbor with poor sinuses and worse timing. But then, slowly, the chirping becomes rhythmic, intentional, like a song composed without your permission. You lie still and listen. Chirp, chirp, pause. Chirp, chirp, chirp. Longer pause, a soloist, then a chorus. A beat emerges, buried in the stillness of the night. It's surprisingly comforting. Nature, unlike people, has no opinion on tomorrow. Crickets don't worry about battlefield formations or the possibility of a spear to the ribcage. They sing because the moon is out, because grass exists, because they can. You envy them a little. The air is cooler now. It brushes over the sweat at your temples, turning dampness into chills. You pull the blanket higher. It smells like dust and effort. Someone nearby shifts in their sleep. The straw mat crackles. A faint grunt. Then stillness again. You try to go back to sleep. Really try. But your brain apparently has decided it's time to think about everything you've ever done wrong with a sword, like the time you dropped. You're balking during sparring and your opponent stared at you for a full 5 seconds before tapping your head lightly and saying, "Well, that's unfortunate." Or when you sliced a practice dummy clean in half and accidentally cut your own sleeve off in the same motion. You turn over. The crickets keep singing. They don't care. Maybe they're right. Your thoughts begin to wander, then drift. You imagine a house, one you've never been to, but that your mind constructs out of memory and hope. It's small, warm, lit from within by paper lanterns. There's a low table set for 2. You don't know who the other person is. Maybe a version of yourself without calluses. Maybe someone who smells like tea and speaks in riddles. The house has no war, no swords, no armor laid beside the bed like a second spine. Just cushions and silence and soup. The crickets are still chirping. Their rhythm has shifted again. Faster now, almost playful. Maybe they're arguing. Maybe they're composing their own battle strategy in Morse code. Historians sometimes speculate whether ancient Japanese warriors were soothed by natural sounds or if such noises heightened their sense of vulnerability. Some scrolls suggest samurai slept best when nature was loud. Frogs, birds, wind, because silence meant danger. Silence meant something was wrong. You think about that as you listen to the night. The presence of crickets means no one's sneaking up on you. The sound is a reassurance disguised as annoyance. You hear a new one now, near the door. High-pitched, persistent, like someone winding a music box with no end. You sigh softly, eyes closed. You can picture him. A cricket samurai chirping his tiny war cry while sharpening a blade made from a pine needle. The thought makes you smile. Your body is heavier now, not with fear, but with the kind of exhaustion that feels earned. You've accepted that sleep will come in layers. It doesn't have to be deep. It just has to be enough. Enough to make tomorrow possible. You slow your breathing, again aligning it with the rhythm of the insects. Inhale with the chirp, hold. Exhale with the pause. It works. Sort of. Your heart slows. Your eyelids grow heavier. You don't think about battle anymore. You think about warm rice. You think about the smell of clean linen hanging in the sun. You think about crickets singing over a stream far from here, where no one ever has to wear armor. and somewhere, in that not place between thought and dream, you begin to slip. The world narrows to sound and softness. The cricket symphony plays on, and, for once, you don't mind the noise. Somewhere in the night, a dream begins. Not a vivid, heroic dream. Not a sweeping cinematic vision of flags and glory and last stands. No, this one is quieter, softer, a little strange. You are walking, not through a battlefield, but down a familiar dirt path lined with bamboo. The leaves rustle overhead like gossiping old ladies. You're barefoot, and the earth is warm. There's no sword at your hip, no armor digging into your shoulders. You wear a plain robe, the kind you might sleep in or nap in on a lazy spring. Day, a bird lands ahead of you. Not a crane, those are too dramatic. It's a sparrow. It hops, not flies, looking back at you as if to say, "Keep up." You do. The path turns. Now you're walking past rice paddies, the stalks golden and nodding in the breeze. You think you hear someone calling your name from far off, but the sound is too slow to catch. You don't run. There's no rush. In dreams, you never need to. Hurry, and then you smell it. Steamed fish, soy broth, charcoal rice crackers. Home. You can't tell whose home it is, but it's home. Your feet carry you forward past the wooden threshold into a room where everything is both known and forgotten. A bowl is waiting for you. It's warm in your hands before you ever sit down. You reach for the first bite, and your body twitches. You wake, but not all the way. The dojo is still dark, still humming gently with the breath of 20-something warriors half lost in their own dreams. Tanaka grumbles in his sleep again. Maybe he's dreaming about dumplings. Maybe he is a dumpling. You'll ask him in the morning, assuming he doesn't stab you for snoring louder than he does. You stare at the ceiling. A moment ago, you were somewhere else, somewhere safe, somewhere entirely lacking in swords. You can still taste the fish, or maybe just the memory of wanting it. Your body relaxes again. That strange full-body twitch, the one that yanks you back from the edge of real sleep, has passed. Your limbs are warm, heavier now. The dream didn't have meaning. It didn't need to. It just offered you something your waking mind couldn't. A place without fear. Historians don't talk much about what samurai dreamed of. Battle, sure. Honor, likely. But no one writes about the dreams of cracked rice bowls or the sound of slippers on a wooden porch, or the comfort of being scolded by someone who loves you, and yet you suspect those were the common ones, the real ones. You roll slightly to your other side, finding a new indentation in the mat that fits your hip better. The blanket shifts with you. The air on your face is cool and dry. Somewhere outside, a frog makes a noise so exaggerated you almost laugh aloud. Almost. You're close to sleep again. This time, the deep kind. The kind where even thoughts lose language. Where dreams don't need sparrows or soup bowls. They just need space. Your last coherent image is of your old house, the one with the crooked roof tile that leaked every summer. You remember placing a bowl under it, watching it fill, drip by drip, then emptying it and starting again, like sleep, like rest, like preparing for something you can't quite control but intend to face anyway. You drift again, and this time, you stay there longer. You're nearly gone now, sinking deep into that delicious void where the world has no edges, when something small and solid bumps your wrist. You flinch, half awake, and blink into the dark. At first, you think it's a dream echo, maybe a leftover from the rice bowl dream or your imaginary sparrow guide. But no, there it is, right beside your mat, a small bundle, tied in cloth, rough around the edges, and entirely unexpected. You sit up slowly, careful not to disturb the others. Even Tanaka's snores seem to hush slightly, as if sensing a plot twist. You reach for the bundle. It's soft, but something inside shifts with weight. You untie it gently, muscles still lazy from near sleep, and open the cloth to reveal a curious assortment. A folded piece of paper with a talisman pressed between its folds, a small packet of salt, and what looks like a tiny carved fox made of bone. Of course. Someone's left you a protection charm. It's not official, not standard issue. You've seen warriors wear talismans in their sleeves, tucked into belts, or hidden in helmet crests. But this one is personal. Probably slipped beside you by one of the junior monks before lights out. Or perhaps one of the kitchen girls. You'll never know. That's how these things work. If you say thank you out loud, the charm doesn't count. You smile to yourself, then examine each item. The talisman is inked in careful calligraphy, crisp lines of a prayer to Hachiman, the god of war and archery. There's a phrase tucked at the end. No arrow sees him. Subtle, not a promise, just a hope. The salt, neatly wrapped in paper, is for purification. Sprinkle it at your feet before battle, and maybe, just maybe, bad spirits will trip before they reach you. And the fox? Well, that's unusual. Not unheard of. Inari's fox spirits are sometimes seen as protectors, tricksters, or both, but carrying a tiny bone fox before combat? That's a bold move. You hold it up to the low light. The carving is rough but delicate. Eyes wide, ears perked. Tail curled around its tiny haunches like it knows something you don't. You tuck the bundle beneath your blanket, just near your ribs, where it won't slip or jostle when you roll. Not that you're superstitious, of course. You're a practical man. Except, maybe, just tonight. Practicality includes tiny fox spirits and salt packets. Historians love this stuff. They'll debate for pages over whether samurai truly relied on charms or if it was merely for show. Were these symbols of faith, of desperation, of habit? Some argue charms were only for the untrained. Others say the most elite warriors were the most devout. You know what you think. You think anything that helps you sleep tonight is worth keeping close. You lie back down, your fingers grazing the edge of the bundle, reassured not by its power, but by the intention behind it. Someone, somewhere, wanted you to feel safer, even if just for one night. The incense has long since burned out. The air is clean now, touched only by the distant smell of pine and ash. The frogs have joined the crickets. A full ensemble now, very professional. You close your eyes. You imagine the fox again, not in your hand this time, but running beside. You through the trees, small paws tapping the ground silently, turning to glance back now and then to make sure you're still following. You follow, you drift. And as you do, the fears that once clung to the corners of your chest like moss loosen. Not disappear, but lighten, because you're not alone. You have your blade, your blanket, your breath, and a fox carved out of someone's hope. The room is quiet now, but not empty of tension. It's the kind of quiet that lies just beneath sleep, when most bodies have softened into slumber, but a few minds remain upright and alert. Your own mind floats somewhere between dream and awareness, drifting like a paper boat on the surface of a still pond. But beneath the surface, there's a ripple, and that ripple has a name: Sakamoto. He's not next to you, not close enough to hear your breathing or bump your elbow if he rolls over too, enthusiastically. But you know he's awake. You don't have to see his face. You can feel it in the weight of the room, the subtle shift of a mat, the way one presence doesn't quite join the rest in restful rhythm. He's not restless. No, that would be easier. To ignore, he's still, and that somehow is worse. Rivalry is like a splinter. Most of the time, it stays under the skin, forgotten, manageable, even helpful in sharpening your edge. But tonight, with battle a few hours away, the splinter has decided to throb. You remember when it started? There was no declaration, no moment, where you pointed at each other and said, "You, I will measure my worth against you forever." No, it began the way rivalries always do, Too many coincidences stacked too neatly. Same age, same rank. Same teacher, same expression during group lectures. Politely bored but listening just enough to quote the important parts. And then there were the training matches. Not every day, just enough. Enough to make it clear that he was always one half step, behind or ahead of you. Never so much that either of you could claim dominance, just close. The kind of closeness that never relaxes. You shift your body slightly, as if just adjusting the blanket. Your head turns, slowly, casually. Your eyes crack open. Yes. There he is, still awake, eyes open, glinting faintly in the low light from the hallway. Not watching you directly, of course. That would be improper. That would acknowledge something. But you can see it in the stillness of his shoulders. The way his fingers rest too neatly over his stomach. Like someone modeling peace instead of experiencing it. You close your eyes again. But your mind won't let it go. You think of the last time you sparred. Both of you slick with sweat, panting hard, feet slipping slightly on polished floorboards that had absorbed too many footsteps and not enough mopping. The match ended with your blades locked, your wrists trembling from the tension. You grinned, trying to break the spell. He didn't. The sensei called it a tie. But that kind of verdict never sticks in a room full of warriors. Later, over dinner, you joked about it. He didn't laugh. And ever since, there's been something. Shadow at the edge of every shared silence. A question never quite voiced. A tally kept silently in the back of your mind. Who strikes cleaner? Who sleeps less? Who moves first when the alarm sounds? You're not jealous. It's not that. You respect him, admire him even. But some part of you also needs to be better than him, if only slightly, by the thickness of a callus, by the speed of a single heartbeat. That desire is uncomfortable. It doesn't fit neatly into the samurai code. You're supposed to seek self-mastery, not comparison. But humans are messy. Even disciplined ones, especially disciplined ones. You wonder if he's thinking of you right now. Probably. You both know tomorrow may be the last time you stand on the same field. Maybe that's why neither of you can sleep. Not from fear, but from the unbearable weight of being almost equal. You take another breath. Slow. Deep. Trying to let it go. But your mind persists. You remember a moment last year during a sudden spring downpour. The two of you had run for cover under the same overhang, both soaked, neither speaking. He had looked at you, rain dripping off his nose, and said, "If I die first, you'll have to explain this haircut to my ancestors." You had laughed. A real laugh. In that moment, the rivalry had slipped, just for a second. Then it returned. Like a hand letting go and then quickly grabbing again. Tonight, you miss that moment. You miss being just two people under the same roof, with the same training, the same ghosts, and the same fear of dying badly. You shift again. Blanket pulled higher. Outside, the crickets have softened. Even they seem to be tired now. Your breath fogs slightly in the cool air. It curls like incense, then vanishes. You open your eyes one last time. Sakamoto's still, but his face is different. Now, softer. Maybe he's finally asleep. Maybe he never was awake. Maybe it doesn't matter. You let your head sink into the mat, and you think, just for a second, if he falls tomorrow and you don't, you'll write his poem. Even if it's just one line, even if it's just, he slept like he was ready, and you'll mean it. Your eyes have closed again, not out of will, but weariness. The kind of fatigue that sneaks up, not like a thief, but like an old friend who slips in through the back door, kicks off his sandals, and sits beside you without saying a word. Sleep. Pulls you under gently this time. No sudden jerks, no unsettling half-dreams. Just a gradual descent into the softer parts of your mind. And in that space, Something strange happens. You're training. Not in a real dojo, though. This one's made of impossible architecture. Half temple, half forest clearing. The floorboards, dappled in sunlight that filters through non-existent branches. The air smells like plum blossoms and old paper. Your limbs move without command. A kata begins. Your right arm rises. The blade cuts through the air with perfect control. Too perfect. Every motion is fluid, frictionless, as if you've become a ghost watching yourself from the inside. You're not alone here either. Others appear around you, also moving through forms. Familiar faces, some living, some long gone. One is your old sensei, the one who scolded you more than praised you, but whose correction always left your body smarter than before. He nods at you. Once, you continue the form. Strike, turn, block, step. In the dream, you're weightless. No sweat, no aching wrists, no noise, just the shuff of bare feet across polished wood that somehow stretches into the horizon. Training dreams are common. Every warrior gets them. The body rehearses in sleep, what it cannot perfect by day. Some say these dreams are the mind-refining muscle memory. Others think they're messages from ancestors, tweaking your form while the conscious self is too tired to argue. Historians still debate whether samurai treated dreams as superstition or strategy. You suspect it was both. How else could you? Explain the fact that you're executing the kata of 5 winds, a sequence you've always struggled with, and yet in this dream you glide through it like a leaf caught on a stream. Your blade is weightless, your timing divine. It feels so good you almost want to weep. You finish the final move. Kneel, exhale. And for a moment, the dojo forest space holds its breath. Then something shifts. Your old teacher steps forward, not the scowling version from memory, but younger, barefoot, calm. He squats beside you and flicks your forehead with one calloused finger. Still too tight in the shoulders, he says. You blink. Try again tomorrow. You nod, and just like that, he vanishes. The dojo dissolves. You stir. Half awake now, somewhere, between dream and dawn. The training echo still lives in your limbs. Your shoulders feel different, looser perhaps. Your breathing has found a new rhythm, and your chest rises and falls like it knows something your mind hasn't caught up with. Yet, you don't open your eyes. Not yet. You don't want to lose the feeling, the sensation of movement without strain, of practice without pressure, of being seen without judgment. You roll onto your back. The blanket shifts with you. The room hasn't changed, still dark, still filled with soft snores and occasional midnight snorts. But you have. A little. Tomorrow, you'll wake and go through those same forms in real dirt, with real breath fogging the air and a real knot in your right calf from sleeping wrong. But maybe, the movements will feel a little less foreign, a little more like they belonged to you all along. You whisper to yourself, barely audible, too tight in the shoulders. Then you smile and let the dream take you back. The itch begins innocently enough. Just a little scratch behind the knee. You shift slightly, blanket rustling, and reach down with 2 sleepy fingers to rub it. It helps. For a second. And then another one. The other leg, this time. Along the calf, near where your sleeping yukata has bunched up like a fabric snake. You roll your ankle to brush it away. Problem solved? No. Because now your neck itches. You try to ignore it. Very stoic, very noble, very, I am one with the night. But it's no use. You reach up with a sigh, fingers slipping beneath your collar to scratch with practiced efficiency. Silence returns. Then the straw mat pokes you in the shoulder blade. Then something tickles your earlobe. You lie there for a moment, frozen, half convinced a spider has descended to whisper good luck into your ear. You swat blindly. Nothing. Now your elbow is hot. Now your left big toe itches inside your sock. You take a deep breath. Remind yourself, you are a samurai, trained, in patience. You have endured hunger, rain, bad poetry recitals from overzealous poets in the marketplace. You can endure a few itchy spots, can't you? But then the mosquitoes arrive, just one at first. You hear it before you feel it. A whisper of wings, that near imperceptible hum that somehow manages to sound both smug and hungry. It zips by your ear like it's checking in. Hello, honored warrior. May I feast upon your soul? You swat at empty air. Miss, obviously. Someone across the room groans softly. You're not alone in this battle. Another buzz. This time by your ankle. You slap again. You feel like you're conducting a symphony of invisible annoyances. The night, once so calm and meditative, has become a petty series of microaggressions against your dignity. And then your yukata sticks to you, sweat mostly. The humidity has risen, and even the thin cotton clings now. It feels like being wrapped in damp paper. You pull it away from your chest, trying to create a little airflow. It clings back. You sigh, not loudly, but audibly. Across the room, Tanaka shifts in his sleep, mumbling something about pickles. He is clearly immune to discomfort. You, on the other hand, are currently fighting a five-front war: sweat, mosquitoes, straw mat scratches, itch phantomism, and the creeping suspicion that you might be allergic to your own blanket. Historians rarely talk about this part. They romanticize the honor, the discipline, the poetry written by moonlight. But they leave out the itchy feet, the straw fragments poking you in the ribs. The mosquito bites right on the curve of your ear, strategically chosen for maximum suffering. You scratch again, then again. You try repositioning, lying flat, then curled. Then on your stomach. Nothing helps. You consider for one brief second, sleeping standing up. You almost laugh. Almost. But the effort would make you sweat again. You hear another slap across the room. Someone else trying their luck with the mosquito. Good. Let it suffer. You try the breathing trick again. Inhale, hold, exhale. Imagine floating. Imagine being a leaf on a pond. But even your imaginary leaf itches now. You open one eye. The moon has shifted. The glow through the window now falls in a new slant across the floor. Time has passed. Somehow, you didn't sleep much. Maybe not at all, but you survived. You lie back again, willing your body into stillness. One more hour, maybe two. That's all you need. Eventually, the itching fades. Or you stop caring. It's hard to tell which. You close your eyes, and this time, you don't. Open them again, not until the sky starts to change. Somewhere between the last mosquito skirmish and the slow shift toward morning, you dream again. It doesn't start with imagery. It starts with a voice. Familiar, firm, measured in tone, but impossible to ignore. Your old sensei. You hear him before. You see him? The way he used to speak when correcting your grip? Or when you arrived 2 minutes late to meditation and pretended you weren't winded from running. You've loosened your stance again, the voice says. You glance down. Sure. Enough, your feet are too wide, knees too soft. In the dream, you're standing in a training yard that looks vaguely like the one from your childhood, except here, the trees are taller and the sun never sets. You try to adjust. He appears then, not from behind, not from mist. He just is. Wearing the same slightly stained robe, sleeves pushed up as always, eyebrows arched like he's already disappointed but willing to be impressed. You bow instinctively. He nods. Barely. Then he circles you. You sleep too heavy. You dream too soft. You start to reply, but he waves a hand. Talking wastes breath. Breathe first. You do. He steps forward and without warning, jabs a finger into your side, right where your ribs flare. Too tense, too proud, too afraid. You straighten up. Better, he says. then hands you a bakken. It's heavier than it should be. Dreams are useful, he mutters, circling again. But only if you learn from them. Otherwise, they're just stories you forget after breakfast. You nod. You think tomorrow is the test, he continues. But the test started when you lay down. Then he's gone. No dramatic exit, no fade, just silence where his voice used to be. The training yard dissolves. You're back in the dark. Only now, your body remembers something. Your shoulders are no longer hunched. Your breath is deeper, steadier. You're not fully awake yet, but you feel changed. Sleep has not just rested you, it has reshaped you. Dream Sensei has a way of doing that. He's shown up before, in the middle of naps during illness, once while you were meditating and nearly nodded off. Always with a correction, never with comfort. You trust him, which is odd, considering he's just a figment of your overtrained subconscious. Historians rarely write about dream teachers. They don't analyze the way memory rewrites lessons into riddles. But if they asked any seasoned warrior, they'd find that every fighter carries more than just scars and stories. They carry voices, reprimands, phrases burned into the soft tissue between thought and reflex. Keep your elbow tight. Don't blink before the strike. If your wrist aches, you're doing it right. You blink in the dark, fully awake now. You can still hear the last echo of his voice, not scolding anymore, just there. Like a hand resting briefly on your shoulder, reminding you not to slouch. You adjust your sleeping position once more, feet straight, shoulders aligned, even in rest. Not because anyone's watching, but because now your dream self demands it. You whisper, half smiling, "I'm breathing, Sensei," just in case he's still listening. And then, without fanfare, you fall asleep again, this time deeply and without dreams. It begins with a blink, not from your eyes, but your thoughts. You blink mentally, and suddenly, the night has passed. Sort of. You're not exactly sure what time it is, but the darkness has shifted. It's still deep, still soft, but no longer, thick with the weight of midnight. There's a subtle lightening in the blackness, a loosening of the shadows. The stars, once crisp, now blur a little. Dawn hasn't arrived, but it's on the guest list. And you're awake. Not fully, not proudly, just awake enough to know that sleep is unlikely to return. Your body is still heavy, like it's being held down by invisible hands, but your brain is already stretching, not a yawn, a stretch. Thoughts uncracking, one joint at a time. You listen. The camp hasn't stirred yet. A few faint noises, cloth rustling, someone's quiet cough, the creak of an elbow repositioning itself after a long, dreamless nap. But mostly, it's still. It would be smart to sleep more. But your eyes are open, and your thoughts are back. You stare at the wooden beams overhead. Familiar, solid, boring in the comforting way a ceiling should be. You wonder, for the 50th time, if you're ready. And for the 50th time, you realize readiness is a myth. The truth is, no one's ready. Some just fake it better. You sit up slowly, blanket folding in your lap, and let the cool air touch your back. You don't shiver, but your skin pulls tight with the sensation. There's a phrase your teacher once said, one of the less poetic ones, scrawled on the edge of a chalkboard after a long winter session. Sleep when you can, endure when you must. You endured. You didn't sleep much, but it was enough. Maybe you're not alone in this early stirring. A few other figures shift in the dark, shadowy silhouettes barely rising from mats. A cough, a mutter. One warrior is already rolling up. His bedding, not loudly, but with the kind of, "I need something to do or I'll scream" energy you understand all too well. You don't move yet. Instead, You reflect on something strange. In all the preparation, the rituals, the poems, the incense, the whispered prayers, no one ever talks about this part. The early morning half hour where everything is still possible, but nothing has begun. You sit in the hush between certainty and chaos, and you realize maybe this is part of the ritual, not formal, not taught, but sacred in its own way. Your mind wanders again. Back to the phrase you heard earlier, the one whispered in the dark by someone you couldn't see. The real test may be who endures the least rest. You think about that. There's truth in it. Maybe not noble truth, but battlefield truth. When the clash begins, it won't be about who got 9 hours of gentle sleep, who dreamed of phoenixes and plum trees. It'll be about who can move, who can react, who can breathe evenly, despite the weight of everything pressing down on their chest. And maybe, just maybe, being half awake now is part of your training. Test within a test. You flex your fingers. Stiff, but not numb. You run your thumb along your palm, feeling the ridges of calluses that have formed like geological records of every wooden blade, every winter drill, every clumsy grip now refined into habit. The others begin to wake. Not all at once, but gradually. One cough becomes a throat clear. A rolled mat becomes the soft patter of feet. Soon the quiet hush will break completely, and orders will be barked, armor assembled, blades inspected. But not yet. Now it's still yours. This last sliver of dark silence. You close your eyes for just a moment. Not to sleep, but to remember how it feels to be still. When you open them again, dawn is just beginning to smudge the edges of the world. Snap. It's not loud, but it's enough. Your eyes fly open. The half-light of pre-dawn has begun to filter in, blue and uncertain, but your instincts sharpen instantly. That sound wasn't dream-born. It was real. A twig, a sandal strap, something. Deliberate. You freeze, not from fear, from training. You listen. A second sound, closer this time. Fabric brushing against something wooden. Then a pause. Then the long, quiet creak of a floorboard. Someone's moving, and they're trying not to be heard. You shift your eyes, not your head. Most of the room is still asleep or pretending to be. Blankets rise and fall in slow waves, but 2, maybe 3 others, like you, have noticed. You catch the faint glint of another pair of open eyes across the room, alert, watching. Another step, the sound of slow breathing. You're ready to move if needed, muscles coiled under stillness. Your hand is already resting lightly on your katana, fingers curled just enough for a smooth draw. You don't grip it. That would show tension. No, you're not alarmed, just aware. It could be nothing. Could be one of the younger boys stepping out to relieve himself, barefoot and hoping not to wake the entire barracks. But it could also be something else. Every samurai has heard stories of sabotage, of spies slipping into the camp dressed like allies, of traitors waiting until the last possible moment before dawn to sow chaos. The hours before a battle are not always sacred. Sometimes they are strategic. You shift slightly to the side, eyes never leaving the door, then a soft whisper. Just the dog. Someone mumbles nearby, voice thick with sleep. Sure enough, a small figure appears in the doorway, silhouette framed by the first blush of daylight. It's one of the watchmen. He bows clumsily and murmurs something to the officer near the entrance, who grunts in acknowledgement and waves him off. You breathe again. Not relief exactly, just recalibration. Still alive, still quiet, still waiting. The adrenaline leaves, slowly, like water draining from a bowl. You lie back down, not to sleep. That window is closed, but to gather, to listen again. More deeply now, and what you hear is everything. the soft sniff of someone rising and rubbing their face, the faint clatter of someone assembling the base of their armor outside the main doors, a murmured prayer, stifled yawn, and beneath it all, the first sound of morning birds, tentative, sleepy, like even they are unsure what kind of day this will be. You remember something your grandfather once said, back when you were a boy too small to lift a sword, but too curious to be quiet. Not every sound is danger, but every sound teaches you something. You didn't understand then, you do now. You rise slowly, careful not to disturb the bundle of charms you tucked beside you earlier. The little fox is still there, pressed gently under your folded blanket. You don't look at it. You don't need to. Its presence is enough. Others are moving now. Sakamoto, your rival shadow, stands and stretches like a cat, bones popping in protest. He doesn't look at you. You don't look at him. And yet, your bodies acknowledge each other in posture and pacing. A shared nod would be too much, too real. Let it be this. From outside, a voice calls, low and firm. 10 minutes. That's all. 10 minutes before armor is fastened. 10 minutes before ranks are assembled, blades checked, banners hoisted. 10 minutes before the poetry ends and the noise begins. You savor it. This moment, this breath, this stillness after a false alarm. This knowledge that yes, you were ready, even half asleep, even itching, even dreaming of soup and foxes, you were ready. Not perfect, but aware. And sometimes, that's the difference between the cut and the counter. You roll your blanket with quiet hands, your body already remembering the motions without asking permission. It's begun. The false alarms are over, only real ones from here on out. The final hour before dawn is neither night nor morning. It's its own strange category of time. An in-between moment, hollowed out from both directions. The stars still linger, but the sky has begun to pale. It's the hour when spirits return home, when dew settles, when no one dares speak too loudly in case the day hears and begins too soon. You sit upright now, blanket folded at your side, body bare to the cool air. The dojo is a hum of quiet, movement. No barking orders yet, no clatter of armor, just the gentle rhythm of limbs stretching, fabrics rustling, blades being unsheathed briefly and checked by moonlight. You rotate your wrists, tight, but responsive. Your knees crack when you stand. Nothing dramatic, but enough to remind you that you are not the same boy who first entered this camp. Outside, the sky is lightening. Not gold, not pink, just less dark. You move toward the wash basin near the door. It's a shallow wooden bowl, filled with cold water from the well. You dip your hands in first, then splash your face. It stings, and you're grateful. The chill strips away the last residue of sleep, dream, doubt. You reach for the small cloth hanging on the post and pat yourself dry. A few others line up behind you. No jostling, no chatter. Just the quiet acknowledgement of shared ritual. You don't need words for this part. You return to your mat and begin dressing. Slowly, methodically. Your inner robe first, then the thin padded shirt. Each layer is folded and tied with the ease of countless repetitions. There is a comfort in the routine, a sense that even if nothing else in your life is in control, this can be. You check your bindings. Tight. Clean. Outside the door, the smell of rice cooking wafts in on the breeze. Someone's already started the fire. You imagine the pot bubbling, the steam rising, the sound of chopsticks being readied. You won't eat much. No one does before battle. But a bite or two of hot rice, maybe a pickled plum, will settle the stomach just enough. Your armor waits, stacked, beside your mat like a loyal pet. You lift each piece slowly, checking ties, brushing off stray threads. Your fingers move over the breastplate. metal warm from the body heat it absorbed during the night. You slide into it, the familiar weight returning like an old habit. Sunita, Hidata, Kote, one by one. Each strap is pulled tight, each knot tested. You pause before the helmet, let it sit in your lap. You look around. Others are doing the same. No, one rushes the kabuto. It's the final act of dressing, the moment that shifts you from man to warrior, from sleeper to combatant. You breathe once more, then lift it, slide it down. It hugs your head with just enough pressure to remind you, yes, you are enclosed, contained, focused. The outside world shrinks. You see less, you hear less, and yet you feel more. You fasten the chin cord, then rise. Everyone's rising now. The officer at the door gives a short nod. No speech, no fanfare. Just a nod that means it's time. You step outside. The air is brisk, laced with the smell of wet grass, wood smoke, distant rain. The light is still dim, but the outlines of trees are becoming visible. Shadows are retreating. The camp is coming, alive. You take your place in line, beside faces you know and faces you don't. Some whisper to themselves. Some stretch silently. Some stare ahead with unreadable expressions, like statues waiting for the sculptor to strike the final pose. You. Look to your left. Sakamoto is there, already armored, already watching the horizon. He doesn't speak, neither do you. But for a moment, your eyes meet, and there is something there. Not rivalry. Not quite. Recognition. You nod. So does he. The final hour of rest is over. Now comes the hour of readiness. No trumpet sounds, no dramatic announcement splits the sky. But still, something changes. You feel it in your spine first. A subtle tightening, a hum in the soles of your feet. The earth itself seems to lean forward. Dawn has not just arrived. It has declared itself. The camp shifts accordingly. Orders begin. Quietly at first. A name called. A banner raised. Footsteps accelerate. The rhythm of morning takes on a sharper edge. You stand in formation now. The weight of your armor has settled into place. Not comfortable, but known. The kind of discomfort that reminds you you're alive. That every movement counts. Your blade is at your hip, secured tightly in its obi. You've checked the cord twice. You'll probably check it again. The sky is soft, gray now, the stars having politely bowed out. Light creeps across the ridges, kissing the tops of the pine trees, outlining their spines like brush strokes on a scroll. It's oddly beautiful. If you weren't so aware of what comes next, you might have paused to admire it more fully. You imagine a different life, one where you could simply sit with a bowl of tea, watching the clouds instead of studying them for signs of cavalry movement. But you're not that man. You're this one. And it's time. The general steps forward. Tall, composed, his armor too polished for someone who surely did not sleep on a straw mat last night. He speaks, but you only hear pieces. Familiar phrases. Honor, duty, legacy. You nod along with the rest. But your focus isn't on the speech. It's on the air, on your breath, on the slight trembling in your hands that only you can feel. You flex your fingers. The trembling stops. You breathe in, slow and deep. The scent of your armor. The smell of warm rice fading behind you. The dampness of earth. You remember the dream, the one with your sensei. His voice still echoes. The test started when you lay down. You passed then. Now it's a different exam. Around you, the line firms up, voices lower, a hand reaches out, someone clasping your shoulder, firm and wordless. You glance, it's Okabe. He gives a small, tight smile, no theatrics, just see you when it's done. You nod. The lines begin to move. Step by step, rhythmically, blades in place, banners lifted. The sound of armor is now a chorus, metal against metal, cloth tightening, boots brushing dust. It's not chaos. It's not even noise. It's music. Every sound sings. We are ready. The gate opens. Beyond it, fog. The battlefield is not yet visible. But you know it waits, patient, impartial. You take one final breath, not shallow, not panicked, deep. The kind of breath that belongs to someone who did not sleep well but slept enough. The kind of breath that says, I am here. You step forward, not because you're unafraid, but because fear does not cancel motion. It only colors. It, and you are very good at painting with limited palettes. You march, and the world, quiet and wide and impossibly bright now, marches with you, and now. Let's breathe. Let all of that drift away. You've walked the night with them, felt the straw beneath your back, the weight of the sword at your side, the tension in the room full of warriors who feared sleep as much as they feared death. But that night has ended. The mats are empty, the incense long burned out. The sky is soft now, pale, endless, and gentle. Let your shoulders loosen. Let your jaw unclench. Nothing is being asked of you now. You are no longer in formation, no longer gripping a blade, no longer tracking footsteps in the dark. You are simply here, lying, still, warm, safe. Maybe the fox charm from earlier followed you into your own dreams. Maybe you'll write your own poem later, one not about death, but about rest. Let that thought carry you deeper, deeper into the stillness. There is no armor to wear now, no blade to sharpen, no rival to impress, just the sound of your breath, the rhythm of your chest rising and falling and falling and falling into quiet, into calm, into the kind of sleep even samurai would envy. You did well tonight. And now, the battle is not yours. The only thing left to do is let go. Good night. So now you know. Before the clash of blades, there was a brushstroke. Before the scream of war, there was the hush of breath, and before every act of courage, there was a man lying on a straw mat, afraid. If that moved you, if it helped you sleep, or helped you see these warriors not just as fighters, but as people, then share it. Tell someone what stayed with you. Subscribe if you want more weird, sleepy windows into history, and comment below. If you were writing your own night before the battle ritual, what would it look like? You don't need armor to be brave. Sometimes you just need rest. Sleep well.